This is Sports Charlotte, the podcast about sports in Charlotte. My name is Herb White. I'm editor-in-chief at Charlotte Post. And this is Cameron Williams, who is staff reporter and all-around sports guy. It's Thursday, April 17th.
This week is going by
2025. Yeah, the week has gone by. Tax day has come and gone. Jackie Robinson Day corresponded to it. So I guess we just get going, huh?
Yeah. Football right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday for Charlotte 49ers. I've had a few chances to go out and catch a little bit of practice, talk with some coaches. I was telling her before the podcast started, man, this is just like, I don't know, the less enthused I've been in a while. Not to say that the 49ers aren't going to be, good this year, nothing like that, but it just seems like in years past, it was a little bit more hyped up. I don't know, this year seems very, kind of like they're flying under the radar, which, who knows, maybe a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't want eyes on them, which, who knows, if they go out there and they end up making a bowl game in Tim Albin's first season, then it's all going to make sense. But it just seems like they've kind of kept this on the down low. But the spring showcase is open to the public. It'll be right around 3:30, 4 o'clock after women's lacrosse finishes their last home game. But I wrote a story, kind of things to kind of keep an eye on. Number one, which quarterback looks ready to take the lead? I know I've done stories in the past on these three transfers. Right now, it's looking like a two-man race between Connor Harrell, the North Carolina transfer, and Grayson Loftus, the Duke transfer. I know you said you thought it was going to be in Loftus.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be in Harrell. So, I guess we'll see a little bit on Saturday about maybe which the offensive coordinator and Coach Albin have a little more faith in. You still thinking Loftus?
Yeah, but I'm also leaning a little bit towards what happens if neither can separate.
Well, maybe Zach Wilk. Who knows?
Or you go back to what's been plaguing this program in the recent past.
Multiple quarterbacks.
Which means you really have none.
I don't think that's the way they're going. Just based on my conversations with some coaches, I don't tend to think that's the way they're going. I definitely think they want one guy to start. Now, having talented depth's a good thing. But second thing to look for, how's the defensive line look? It has been absolutely gutted with the transfer portal's second window. Had Colin Coates leave, Dre Martin leave. So it leaves a big question, how's the pass rush going to look? How's the run stop going to look? They do have a few guys that are still on the roster. I know Dre Martin especially was a big time impact player. It's going to be slim pickings. Albin's got a tall task to bring some guys in from the portal. So how will they look? I don't think Albin's ignorant to the fact that that's a point of emphasis they need to address, but it's not looking good as of now. My third point, can the running backs keep defenses honest? I know this was one thing that a lot of fans were happy that Albin was able to do. You had Henry Rutledge, you had Rod Gainey. They entered the portal in December. Albin was able to convince them to return. They also brought in Don Chaney Jr., who 5'11", 220. That's a girthy running back.
Mm-hmm.
So you got options at the running back room. It hadn't been talked about as much, and that's one thing that I know in the past, they're like, oh man, Charlotte's got all these running backs. Well, they've got a lot of running backs this year too, but I guess when you have a lot of options at quarterback, that's what takes the top headline. But Chaney was a 1,000-yard guy at over his last couple seasons at Louisville and Miami. He appeared in 36 games total with those two programs. So I like the running back room. I think it's going to be diverse. Rod Gainey's more of a, I don't want to say scat back, but because he can lower his shoulder pads and run people over, but he's more the quick guy. Chaney, I think, is going to be your ground and pound type guy. So 3:30, be at the Richardson or be at Jerry Richardson Stadium or
Not.
or don't.
Well, I understand those are three things to watch out for. Which of those should cause the 49ers the most concern? Understanding that it probably won't be running back, because if you've got good running backs already in-house, that's a good thing. And obviously that will take care of lessening the burden on your quarterbacks. But of the remaining two, defensive line, quarterback, which is the greatest unknown?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about unknown, it's probably the defensive line. Just being, you know what you've got at quarterback. Now it's just about picking one. As far as defensive line is concerned, you're really left wondering, okay, how are they going to replace these guys? Who are they going to replace them with? Do they know they need to replace these guys? Which, I mean, they do. But I think that's probably the biggest point of concern. Now, like you mentioned, you don't want this to end up where you have two quarterbacks that are both going to be playing starting roles. That can't happen. Again, I don't think it's going to happen just based on some conversations. But, yeah, biggest point of concern right now is probably that defensive line. Just how are they going to be able to get pressure on the quarterback? How are they going to be able to stop the run? And I get that has some things to do with the linebacker room as well. And the defense just hadn't really been spotlighted or showcased a lot in the spring, so we'll see. We'll see. Albin definitely keeps things a little bit more close to the vest, which I know some fans seem to like. He's not like former coach Biff Poggi or Will Healy is like, everyone come check us out. You know, he's strict. He's like, yeah, media are allowed to watch practice for a certain period, but then we go rogue. We shut it down and we have a private practice, which, I mean, that's like a lot of your top programs. I mean, media can't just sit out there at Alabama or Georgia's practice. Not to say Charlotte's going to be that level anytime soon, but that's always the goal. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, because I'm of a mindset to say, well, it might be good to kind of keep things as low-key as possible to set those expectations in a different place than previously, because the program hasn't had that rip-roaring success that I'm sure alums and fans want. And Albin is taking this in a different direction in terms of, let's bake something first and then let's see if it's up to speed. And so I can understand that. I am not necessarily convinced that reporters are going to show up and spill state secrets. I mean, come on. I mean, the NFL doesn't do that. They'll allow media to show up at Panthers practices and you sit there, you watch the whole thing. But that's a different bag, and obviously it differs from coach to coach. Some are a bit more paranoid than others.
You don't want a situation that happened a handful of years ago. I mean, Charlotte was getting ready to play Western Kentucky, and you had a scout there from Western Kentucky sitting there flying a drone filming practice. Like, that kind of opens a little different.
Well, yeah, if you're flying a drone, for starters, you shouldn't be flying a drone on a college campus to start. So there's that. But
Charlotte flies their own drone, but
well, I'm sure any coach would tell somebody at the university, I don't want any drones flying over my practices. That's an easy fix. But I digress, because this was in the past, and Tim Albin had absolutely positively nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
so
that was the Healy era, and I did find it really interesting because one of the former SIDs was like, do you know who that is? I'm like, no. And they went and talked to him, and all of a sudden you can see the guy leaving. So it's like, he wasn't supposed to be here.
Yeah, well, he thought he was supposed to be there. But the idea is, with spring ball, you get a measure of how good your group looks, even though in reality you can never tell because you're practicing against yourself. And that's one of the issues that I have with spring ball anyway, or training camp for that matter, is you can never really get a true handle on what that talent will translate into when games actually start commencing. And I just think that the NCAA should do its FCS and FBS programs a favor and allow them to do the intra-squad scrimmage like they allow for Division II. A couple of weeks ago, I went to see Johnson C. Smith and Wingate, and it was vanilla in terms of schemes and all the other stuff that goes into a game, but at least it was somebody who didn't have your own jersey. And so I think that would solve a lot of issues for these teams as well, in terms of being able to figure it out against a competing program. And the NCAA needs to get on board with that. I know they've got their hands full with the sinking ship caused by NIL and the transfer portal, but this is I think a good solution to the spring ball conundrum.
I mean, you see them turning down teams that are wanting to scrimmage, their own level. It's not like you got, I think it was it Georgia or Alabama? One of those teams, they were trying to scrimmage, another Division I opponent, and they're, no, you can't do that. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
It generates more excitement than a green and white or whatever your school colors are, because, like you said, you got the same jersey on. You know what's the plays they're about to run, and just it's boring.
Yeah.
I mean, it's boring.
It adds a little extra to get another school in, and you have some joint practices. It doesn't have to be a whole lot of hitting or anything like that, but it gives you an opportunity to sell some hope and another team. I mean, maybe you wouldn't even have to have an in-conference opponent. Get somebody from outside. What would a team from the Sun Belt in Charlotte do? Big Liberty in Charlotte? Hey, that could be pretty good. Or ODU? Something like that. But that's just my pet peeve, and I wish that the NCAA would allow the Division I folks to have that flexibility to have that game if they want.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think it would not only be beneficial to the teams, but curate more excitement amongst both fan bases, whoever's competing against each other. So, but also on the football side, we've got a little bit of high school ball to attend to.
Yes, indeed.
It was announced the matchups were finally released. I've known about these matchups for a little bit, but it was finally released. The Panthers, did their whole video and everything about the Keep Pounding Classic. Third installment of this event. It's going to feature two Charlotte Powers. One that's just coming off a championship in the West Charlotte Lions, and another who is trying to get over that hump.
Trying to get a piece of what the Lions already have.
Well, based on some of the Twitter beef, a lot of these players are going at each other. Oh, that's 3-8. That's a weak ring.
But it's a ring.
It's a ring, no less. And that's one thing that Sam Grinder, the coach of the Lions, was talking about. It's like, this is their chance. Because, preface, they're playing defending 4A champ Grimsley in this event. Grimsley is really good. They got the number one quarterback in the nation. They beat Huff. They beat Weddington en route to a championship last year. So they beat a lot of very talented teams, a lot of teams that, quite frankly, I didn't think they would beat. So all credit to them. But that's who West Charlotte gets. And Sam was like, okay, this is our way to kind of shut up the naysayers. All the people that said, oh, that's 3-8, that's a weak ring. Well, Sam was like, you didn't take into account we beat Hickory, who had the state's longest winning streak. We beat Dudley, who was a perennial power at any level. We beat 71st in the state championship game, who was a state runner-up 2 years in a row. When's the naysaying going to stop? And they're like, well, he's like, if you go in and you beat Grimsley, what else are they going to say? Because at that point, it's like, okay, well, you beat the state's highest level champion. And so he's looking forward to the challenge. I don't think he's ignorant to the fact that it's going to be probably his toughest game of the year to start. Grimsley's got a lot of expectations coming in again this year. Probably favorites to go back-to-back. I know there's different classifications now, but I think Grimsley's 7. It might be 8.
Yeah, this is going to take some getting used to.
Yeah.
All this reclassification business.
It is. But nonetheless, Grimsley's going to be a favorite in whatever classification they're in. So it's a challenge, but one that he's looking forward to. And he did throw a little friendly jab into Coach Baker over at Huff. Said, he's playing the warm-up game because West Charlotte's the prime time 8 o'clock game, and Huff will play South Point E, the one from South Carolina.
Yeah.
So that'll be a good game. Baker thinks it's a little bit more special to him because Coach Collins at South Point played with Coach Baker and some of his assistants at Huff now. They all play together in college at South Carolina State. So there's that caveat to the game. But look, South Point's always good year in, year out. They're a relatively young program. I mean, I don't want to say young. They're 15, 20 years old, something like that.
Yeah, they don't have that long pedigree that.
But they've won 5, 6 state championships, so that's a relatively small sample size.
Yeah.
So they've got something cooking down there in Rock Hill. I mean, Rock Hill, they call it Football City, USA for a reason. So both games are going to be really good, and I think Huff wins, West Charlotte loses.
Oh, you're calling it in April, huh?
Well, when
Sam
listens to this podcast, he's going to call me, so I know it's coming.
Well, but even at that, I look at it from the standpoint of, anytime you win a state title, it's something to celebrate. It's a big deal. And I don't understand why folks are trying to pull down West Charlotte's pants over winning a 3A title. All you can do is play what's in front of you.
Yeah.
And so...
And people forget, they played in a tough league.
Yeah.
With Huff, with Chambers, with Mallard Creek. So they weren't playing cupcakes.
Yeah. And they held their own in most of those cases. So I don't understand that, and maybe that's the drawback that West Charlotte was going to face regardless, because it's in a Mecklenburg County 4A league basically, and there's a bit of snobbery going on when you're that higher category. It's like, well, but you're not facing the same caliber of opponents. Maybe not. But that's not their fault.
Yeah. Well, I got news for people. This year, now that they've done all this reclassifying and stuff, West Charlotte's in one of the tougher, probably the toughest conference in the state. I mean, we're talking West Charlotte, Independence, Chambers is in there, and they've been down the last few years, but Chambers, they're going to return to maybe not what they used to be, but they're going to get back on track. So, look, that conference is going to be really tough. Butler. So don't dismiss the West Charlotte Lions this year. If they're able to compete in that conference, they're legit.
Yeah.
I mean they're legit anyway. I mean just the way they controlled that game against 71st, even when 71st tried to start making a run, Sam knows what he's doing. I'll leave it at that. I think they're going to be just fine this season, even though I do think they're probably going to lose this first one. Grimsley they're different.
The West Charlotte returns 20-some kids?
Yeah, from
the starting lineups last year?
Yeah, they only had a handful of seniors a season ago. The quarterback was a sophomore. KD Cotton, who's kind of the do-it-all player for them. I think he was a junior, so he'll be a senior this upcoming year. It's they've got a lot returning, so there's that factor as well. 7A is going to be a gauntlet as far as who's going to be the state champions. I'm not going to go out and predict that on April the 17th.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think Huff wins in a closer game than some might think. South Point's going to give them a run for their money. but I think Huff wins, and I think West Charlotte loses 27-17.
Ooh, really? Okay. Well,
You understand, Faison Brandon is a great quarterback. I mean, this kid, I remember watching him as a freshman, and some folks that are in the Greensboro area that I know, they're like, this kid's going to end up being the number 1 ranked prospect in the country. And he ended up being the number 1 ranked prospect in the country by the end of his sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
He's good. He's really, really talented.
Yeah, well, we will see how that works out. It even gets me to thinking that maybe we should even put out a way too early Magnificent 7 or 9.
I'm going to leave that to him. He doesn't let me touch those rankings. I could give him a hand, but he doesn't let me touch them.
But it's okay. It's okay. It's early.
He lets me critique them.
Yeah. Well, everybody plays a role. So the thing that also would stand out to me with the Keep Pounding Classic is obviously, outside of the Greensboro area, you're talking about 3 teams in the immediate Charlotte vicinity, and they will draw a crowd. I would bet you that West Charlotte group is going to bring a little bit of everybody.
Oh, it'll be massive. I thought it was going to be hard. Well, you got to understand, West Charlotte, their alumni base and their fan base is just, it's massive.
And rabid.
It can be. But I thought it was going to be hard to outdo last year. I mean, you had Providence Day and Weddington, 2 fan bases that travel pretty well, and they are right in the backyard. But you also had Northwestern. Wait a minute. Northwestern was 2 years ago. Who was it? It was Myers Park and Independence.
Yeah.
So you had 2 really great matchups even last year. I think it's gonna be tough to top that. As far as fans numbers, I think they could probably top what they've seen in the past. But as far as the caliber of games, man, those were really. I mean, Myers Park comes back on Independence after Independence was thumping them. Independence holds on to win that game, but then you got that Providence Day and Weddington game was something else. I remember they
were good games.
We had an event here, and as soon as it was over, I rushed over to Bank of America to catch the second game, and I was like, man, it's going to be tough to top that. But I look forward to it. I know I'm sure one of us, or maybe even both of us, maybe I can get him out to Bank of America for a high school football game.
That would be a first.
There's a first for everything in there.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true.
But as we kind of cap off football, let's talk baseball. Something we don't talk about much on the podcast.
But we talked about it on the last one.
I was thinking that was the first time. At any rate, Berry Academy, team that was 8-11. Well, it's 8-11 now. Capped off the Westside Story Championship that was put on by the Knothole Foundation. I know last week when we talked about it, we talked about the importance of getting these kind of underserved and less illuminated schools in the limelight and getting them in a tournament that it's everyone usually plays a spring break kind of baseball tournament. And a lot of these schools, they don't get invites because maybe their record's not great, or maybe they think, oh, that's going to be basically a bye for a team, or just whatever reason. The Knothole Foundation put on a great tournament, great championship game. It was 13-9, 7 or 8 runs put up in the 6th inning by Berry. So really great comeback effort. I think this tournament overall it's great for the kids to be able to experience a spring break tournament, but just to give them confidence. I want to get your take on this because these teams don't get a lot of the credit that they rightfully deserve. I mean, they're out there putting in the work, just like the Providences or the Audrey Kales or the Myers Parks. But just because they might not be as good on paper doesn't mean they shouldn't be invited to these kind of tournaments.
I agree, but I also understand the realities that these programs face. Underfunded, underappreciated, and it shows in what goes onto the field. But I think it's also a good application of do for self and having allies in your corner. And I think that the Knothole Foundation, which is dedicated to doing just that in terms of baseball in underrepresented communities, they do a really good job of that. And it's a self-made showcase in terms of, but these are schools that fall into what the Knothole Foundation is trying to do overall in terms of baseball outreach. So I think it's a fabulous program that they're putting together, and no, these clubs will not go out and beat up on the Myers Parks or Audrey Kells, but these kids are still out there and they have an appreciation for baseball. So why not create something that gives them an opportunity to compete for something that they can be proud of and make memories with. So I think that, you know, sometimes you don't have to have the big shiny object. Sometimes you just have to start at the beginning and grow it from there. And that's what this showcase is. And from what I'm hearing from you, it was successful.
Yeah, and for them to have it on Jackie Robinson Day, or at least a championship on Jackie Robinson Day, was really unique, because naturally I wanted to ask the coach and the player I spoke with just about what that meant to them, because Coach Jermaine Sutton, black male, he understands what Jackie Robinson did for the sport.
And American society, for that matter.
True, and it was unique because before the game started, I forget his name, but he's an anchor at Queen City News. He was the kind of the PA, the MC, if you will, of the event, and he was like, what Jackie Robinson did for civil rights was, because without Jackie Robinson, he says there's probably likely no Martin Luther King Jr. because before, I mean, this happened in 1947. And he said that MLK was a sophomore in college at the time. So, arguably, if Jackie Robinson didn't kind of be the first, well, let's just say Martin Luther King Jr. would have been what he is. So I think it was a unique perspective. But Coach Sutton was like, look, Robinson's the reason I played. He's the reason my boys get to play, the reason my team gets to play. What he did for baseball and breaking that color barrier in American society in general is something that needs to be recognized on a daily, but to be able to win this tournament on Jackie Robinson Day was very special. And then I talked with Tyler Davis, who he's a freshman, came in, man, he just came in, he was cold. I mean, he capped off the game through 2 strikeouts. He's a position player. He plays right field. But he came in, he's like, yeah, I was a little nervous, I'm not going to lie, but I just had to stay calm, had to be confident. He throws a strikeout. One batter gets on, but then he comes in, he throws another strikeout, and then, so the runner on first stole second, and then he steals third off a pass ball. Catcher didn't field it cleanly or, catch the ball cleanly. So he's standing on third. Well, he throws a strikeout. This guy goes to steal, but then he's like, oh, because he didn't make contact. The player didn't make contact at the plate. He runs back, and in the process of running back to third, the catcher throws him out. So it's a double play to end the game. And just a fitting way to end the game. And I asked him about, Jackie Robinson, what that meant to him. He's like, he inspired me to play. He inspired a lot of his friends to play. And so what the level of understanding as a 14-year-old kid, to me, that's inspiring. Just knowing that, okay, these people understand what Robinson did for baseball. He understands the history of baseball. Because a lot of people, let's be real, how many 14-year-olds that play baseball really understand the gravity of that?
Probably not a whole bunch, and even fewer who are 14 and never played baseball.
And so Davis, he really understood, and that was impressive to me, and that's why I included the quote. Because, he inspired a lot of young people to play, he inspired me, and he helped allow it to be possible. That was like, okay, hey, this kid gets it. So, great event. Not much really more I can say. Tommy Viola, the communications officer, he great to all the media. Really got us what we needed. Top notch.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very
I feel like I'm rambling, but it was a great event.
So now all we have to do is just see if they can top it next year.
It's going to be tough, but look, like I said, Barry wasn't the favorite going into that tournament. They won 3 games, so yeah, they were 5-10, 5-11 going into that tournament. They put on a good show, and to them, it, or at least to Coach Sutton, he's like, look, this shows the kids that if they put their mind to something and they want it bad enough, they can go out and achieve it. So,
and we would be remiss not to mention the softball folks.
Yeah, well, and see that game. I don't know. It was supposed to be played on the same day, but I guess they wrapped up earlier because there was no softball game played Tuesday.
Okay.
It's probably something I should probably ask Tommy, but nonetheless, they were supposed to be. One was supposed to be at 5:30 on another field, and one was supposed to be the baseball game at 6 on the lone baseball field out there. But there wasn't one played on Tuesday.
Well, maybe it was just rescheduled to another time. Regardless, the Knothole Foundation pulled off this showcase. Kudos to them. Kudos to the teams that showed up and played. And it's appropriate to put it on Jackie Robinson Day for your final.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for us with this one in terms of what has gone on this week. Is there anything that you want to throw out there as far as stuff that you're looking forward to?
A couple more weeks. I'm looking forward to the PGA Championship. I mean, I know it's right around a month out, but Rory finally did it. He finally got that green jacket. Man, he had me nervous. I mean, you have a 4-footer on 18 for par to just win it. Nah, we had to add some drama to it. He misses the 4-footer, ends up in a playoff with Justin Rose. Goes out there, hits a gorgeous drive. They played the 18th hole again. He's sitting there at 130 out, has a little gap wedge in there. He throws it past the hole, spins it back to a 3-foot tap in. Rose misses his birdie putt. Roy taps it in. And then the emotion. Just for golf fans, I don't know how many golf fans listen to the podcast, but that was just something special because it doesn't quite top Tiger's 2019 Masters. But what that Masters did for Rory, it's like, he even said it. He said it his whole career. Being from Northern Ireland, you have a major championship played overseas where you're at. But he's growing up. He's like, look, I want to win the Masters. That is the pinnacle. You win the Masters. That's the one everyone wants to win if you're a professional golfer. And so he had already won the other 3 majors. He's like, it was time to get that monkey off his back, so to speak, and he's finally done it. He likes Quail Hollow. He's got a mighty good record at Quail Hollow. Won several Wells Fargo championships there. Can he go back to back?
He has a month to figure it out.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's going to be unique. Right now, him and Scotty Scheffler, the world's number 1, are both tied as far as betting odds. They're both 50-1, so plus 500. We'll see. That's what I'm looking forward to. Okay. What are you looking forward to?
Well, Charlotte FC hosts Major League Soccer's newest team, San Diego, Saturday at Bank of America Stadium. I'm looking forward to that.
That's wild, isn't it? Like Charlotte, we've been the newest team up until now. So
now there's another baby in the house, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm looking forward to that. And of course, there's the NFL draft next week, and we will pay oodles of attention to that one when it actually arrives. So, but until then, go to our website, thecharlottepost.com, and click on the donate button, or you can subscribe, or become a subscriber to our sports newsletter, which comes out every Thursday, and we will appreciate your interest in the post, your support of the post, and just being FOTP. friend of the post, friend of the podcast.
That's right.
There you go. So for everybody here at the Charlotte Post, and beautiful writer, I'm Herb.
I'm Cam.
Thanks for watching and listening.